Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. I hope everybody had a wonderful week. Looking forward to a wonderful weekend. And today we want to bring you all of the latest and greatest news that might explain to you reasons why you might want to switch to Linux and be a little bit more cautious about sharing your data with the whole wide world. That's what we like to cover over here. Of course, you can catch the show live Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can see all the in-between the news sections, read all the comments, and things like that. And with that, let's go ahead and dive right on into the news. First up, Audible is testing using Prime Video data for audiobook recommendations. Of course, Audible is owned by Amazon, and for the longest time, they have kept all of their different subsidiary businesses separate. And of course, Audible is one of the places that you could use to put your audiobooks on Amazon, iTunes, and Audible itself. And with this, it did try and keep everything separate. But of course, since Amazon, like everybody else, is like, hey, let's just cram ads in every place on the internet. Let's use every source of available data to push every source of available product. They have all of this information about what people are watching on Prime. And now what they're doing is they have observed that after one particular show came out, a whole bunch of people went over and looked at one specific series of books. And what they started to do is they started to track this stuff and say, hey, this is kind of interesting. And so they decided to merge their data sets in order to utilize your Prime. So if you are a Prime customer and an Audible customer, you can go ahead and get recommendations in your Audible app based on the things you watch in your Prime Video. So if there's a reason to build your own Jellyfin server, think about doing that and stop giving them so much data about what you're watching, or have separate emails or separate basic full accounts for each of those separate services if you don't want to be part of that. Of course, if you do want to be part of that, that's fine. They say 2 weeks after Reacher premiered on Prime Video, the average daily listening minutes for author Lee Child's catalog grew by nearly 80%. 2 weeks after The Summer Turned Pretty drove the average listening minutes for author Jenny Han's catalog more than 10 times. Of course, if you are using Audible, my books are all over there. I have my science fiction book, Synaptergy, is over there. We will have another one by the end of the summer. Of course, we will announce that on this channel. And of course, my whole Christian catalog is over on Audible as well. You can look them up under my last name, Muroski, Murosky, on Audible, and you can find those. Of course, if you're using Spotify, you can listen to them for free, ad-supported. Hey, there's a great option. So, but they are using your data in order to do that. All right, the FBI warns online daters to avoid free online verification schemes that prove costly. So apparently people are being duped. You go onto the online dating profile, and the individual you're speaking with, whether it's a guy or a girl that you're speaking with, is like, hey, let's take this off of this and onto more private places. And then they're like, but can you do this little thing for me here just to verify that you're not a serial killer? And they're literally asking you for like the identity theft plan. You know, give me your name, your address, your credit card numbers, and things like this. It doesn't cost anything. We just need it to verify who you are. And of course, they're basically using it to sell a whole bunch of stuff on the black market and probably utilizing that data to patch up other phishing information out there. So there was a time it was probably a little bit safer to use the online dating websites. I'm not quite sure it's really safe anymore. I don't know. I imagine that there's more scammers and bots over there. Would you like to date a robot or a real human? I don't know. Real human, you might want to go check out somewhere where you can meet people in real life. But, go ahead and do the Blade Runner test. Make sure they're not a replicant. Just go ahead and do that as well. Or one of those little bots on artificial intelligence. That movie had some underlying weird things. Was Harvey Weinstein protection of that film? Anyway, little child being running around town by a sex bot. What? I don't know, man. But anyway, just be aware of that. Be aware of that indeed. And that does advise you to stay on the platform. If whatever platform you're using, stay on the platform rather than moving off. Don't click on links or download attachments sent to you by strangers, even if you've been talking to them. I mean, remember, some of these guys will play a long game. They might string you along for 3 or 4 months before they pin you for details. That's not outside the realm what they're doing, because realize this is their job. They're just part of a cog in a wheel. You're like one of 18 people they're actively scamming, and 6 of them, they already have this information. They've been doing this for so long. It's what they're doing. So just be a little bit more wary. And our final one in privacy is, of course, smart rings came upon us really quick. And now we have a couple of smart rings. These will tie in. You basically wear them. They're super light, so they're not as encumbering as a watch, because, a watch is super encumbering these days. So the ring feeds the data to the watch feeds the data to the phone, and the phone feeds the data to the big corporate servers, which is now marketing all of your health data to, highest bidders, which is usually health insurance companies and stuff like this. So the Amazfit Helio ring has now a release date and a price. Individually, the ring, which can do biometric stuff, it can also calculate resting heart rates, and it can do an activity recovery time. This guy is starting at $300, but if you purchase it with a Amazfit smartwatch, you can get the ring for a deal at $149. So if you get the bundle. So we're starting to see more of these bundles showing up. Samsung, of course, you can get the phone, the watch, and the ring as a bundle for some discounts as well. And of course, there's now 3 of these major rings. Samsung is locked into this. The Helio ring is locked into their ecosystem. There is one of them, which is the Aura ring, I believe, which is actually not locked into a specific gateway. So if you do need one, that's a little bit better, but I wouldn't get any of these things that are sending data to big company servers. But with these rings now, all of your data can be stocked. Of course, they're tying in. I looked, of course, at the Garmin just smartwatches. Most of them now, I have a model, I think I have a Forerunner 35, does not require any connection to any device, never connected to any device, and I can get all the information I need off of it directly. Most other Garmin watches, you have to sync it to a smartphone app. The smartphone app has to be on the phone. You have to have GPS turned on. You have to have an email address and a phone number verified with them. Basically, it's an identity theft package that ties all that data and then copies it all into their server perpetually. And no, Garmin needs to go to hell for that. No. So that really is what they're doing. They're just trying to get into more easily wearable tech that is more stylish, not as encumbering, so that they can collect as much data as they possibly can. And that's really what their objective is with all these devices. So, of course, now we have one ring to stock them all. Well, let's move on over and see what type of security implications all these types of things could have. First up is over in the UK. We got at least 2 people over here from the UK been talking with today on the super chats, or on the comments and the chats and such. UK is outlawing awful device passwords on connected devices. Now, this is actually it almost sounds like reading it. It almost sounds like the reporter doesn't exactly know what's going on here, just because some of the wording of it. What it boils down to is a device that you have in the UK can't be sold with a static common password, which I don't think any device has done that for a long time, except maybe Kia cars, which is what has caused one of the big issues. And some places, of course, some of the right-wing guys are sitting there saying, well, instead of suing Kia, you should probably just lock up the car thieves. Well, I agree, we should lock up the car thieves. But if Kia is hard-coding passwords into their software, which they are doing, yeah, they need sued too. So it's not all the right-wingers that have it all right, The car companies do need sued because they hard-coded common test passwords, literally copy-pasted from Stack Overflow into the software of their cars. And that caused some people to steal them easier. So other than that, most devices really aren't shipping with common default passwords. Of course, when I had my first router back in the day, it was an old D-Link router and it had admin, right? Of course, the recommendation would be to change that, but there's nothing that forces you to change that. I have a Linksys, an old Linksys. It's easily 15 years, maybe 20 years old at this point. It might still have a hard-coded password like that. I can't remember. But nearly every router I've seen, at least in the last decade, they have what would pass the UK muster, a randomly generated password that is not common. And they don't specifically recommend you change it, but it's good enough that unless somebody breaks into your house and physically gets the device, they're not actually going to have any problem with this. And so that's what UK is doing. Overall, I think this is a good plan. I'm not sure if it's totally necessary, but maybe it just gives them some extra stuff in the sense you need to follow through. Dropbox. Dropbox has a confirmation system called e-sign. It allows you to verify who you are and to electronically sign a document. And it wasn't Dropbox itself that was compromised. It was the eSoft component of Dropbox was compromised. Even multi-factor authentication information was taken, and just a bunch of other stuff. Now, this is particularly significant because Dropbox is being used by a lot of people that it shouldn't be. Like, for example, I actually fired an accountant once because he's like, we're going to Dropbox. Everybody give me your stuff on Dropbox. I'm like, no, not happening, baba. And so, you know, he actually, my accountant retired and sold his business to this other guy, and he comes in, we're going to use Dropbox. I'm like, are you always an idiot, or is this a new thing, you know? And so, of course, I fired him and went with a way better accountant. The accountant I have is really good now, and guess what? He has no problem when I send them my P&Ls from GNU Cache. So all of my accounting for all of my businesses are all GNU Cache, which is great. But Dropbox, the Dropbox accounts themselves were not compromised. It was just the verification, which includes emails, usernames, phone numbers, hash passwords, general account settings, API keys, OAuth tokens, and multi-factor authentication. It is so bad they are recommending that if you are using like Authy or some other related application, to go into that application, delete your keys from it, and rebuild your keys. This is the I thought two-factor authentication was going to fix the world's problems. Apparently not. Maybe let's just go back to random regular passwords. And if somebody is too much of a buffoon to not use different passwords, well, it pays to be a moron these days, doesn't it? So there you have it, folks. There you have it. So that is what is going on at Dropbox. And this one was almost SillyVille worthy, but it's worth mentioning here in security. During the holiday rush, statistics are in, the U.S. Post Office had a phishing site that got just as much traffic as the real post office. Yeah. So security researchers in analyzing the campaigns saw traffic related to fake domains is typically similar to what the legitimate site records, and is even higher during the holidays. This mostly had to do with phishing messages. So people would get these text messages. Now, when you get, see, let me show you how to read a domain name here. This is like not a domain name specific. Let's go down here. All right. So here's the domain name. What the text message comes, it says a USPS package has arrived to the warehouse, cannot be delivered due to incomplete address information. Please confirm your address and the link within 12 hours. So, and then of course, reply Y, then exit SMS and SMS activation link open before you open it. So basically, hey, enable all the stuff that allows us to compromise your phone. And help USPS-help send-info.com. That is not USPS. Okay, if it's not a USPS.com address, it's probably not the post office. Now, they might use something before that, and that's how domains work. They kind of read from the right to the left. So .com and then whatever it is. Now, of course, if USPS.net doesn't go to the post office and somebody buys that and does something nefarious, there's another thing. So you just got to be really careful. If somebody sends you a message like this, it's probably going to be a scam. And what they're doing here is you go over and you land up on the site. It looks very realistic. It does look like the USPS. If you enter the tracking number, delivery failed, address unknown, and then you have to come in here and schedule a redelivery, and then you click in on that, and it's going to either charge you a bunch of world. So here's actually fake sites: USPS-post.world, USPSpost.me. Okay, these are fake. Don't go to any of these. Okay. And so here is the legitimate one. The blue is the legitimate traffic, and the red is the malicious traffic. You can see they had about equal usage over the holidays. And we're actually right, that's in general. Here's over the holidays. So November, the malicious spike peaked. That was November 6th, November 13th. And then we had November 20th. November 27th, December 4th, and then December 18th. The malicious were nearly double the actual amount of traffics to the legitimate USPS website. So be very careful with this kind of stuff. These scammers know what they're doing, guys. And this is why we need to be a lot more careful, a lot more vigilant, and, put as little data out there on the internet as possible, so that, they can't scam you or spam you or whatever else they want to do. Well, if you want to help support this channel, we do use affiliates. Say we're highlighting A2 hosting, which I recommend for web hosts, email servers, things like that. They have really good plans. They have local, local support, so you can actually call them on the phone and still get a human being to talk to. Their shared hosting is as little as $3 a month when you start, which is 76% savings. I think they replan at like $12 a month or something, which is pretty standard. We have their WordPress hosting. We have VPS hosting, dedicated hosting. If you need a web hosting company, you can go ahead and have a look at tlm.li/A2H. Of course, if you just need a domain name, tlm.li/NC for Namecheap. And that's a good place to get domain names there as well. And let's go ahead and have a look at a couple of AI articles next. And first up, Microsoft bans U.S. police departments from using the enterprise AI tool for facial recognition. Now, in earlier articles might have said they've banned the police from using AI tools in general. That is not true. What is true is they have prevented them from using any of the Azure OpenAI tools for live action facial recognition. So if you had an Axion body camera, you could not attach an Axion body camera live into a AI facial recognition program to actively identify people utilizing facial recognition in the wild in that means. So that's basically what they have banned. But overall, they can still use it as long as it's not for in the wild. And that's really is that thing. So, of course, the proliferation of body cam channels, for example, is starting to show more and more police officers with body cameras. They can attach facial recognition to those body cameras so they can identify people in real time. So that's kind of what Microsoft is up to. And overall, I thought we weren't going to use this for anything. Of course, TechCrunch here does say down here that OpenAI originally banned the use of it in any form of military applications. But of course, they dropped that because money had to be made. And so because money had to be made, and we have a whole bunch of war pigs up there in high level positions, they make a lot more money when computers can be used to bomb people. And so they are starting to use it to just not for actual assault purposes, just for defense purposes. Yeah. Anyway. And finally, customers say Meta's ad buying AI blows through your budgets in a matter of hours. I kind of confirmed Amazon is doing something similar. So Meta now, if you want to buy ads through Meta, which is Facebook, so they'll push ads through Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to buy ads over there, they have a new AI tool where you can just sign into the AI and it will decide where to put the ads. And the problem is that it burns through the budget. So when you're doing ad buys, you say, okay, I have a daily budget. So like I have a client right now, we have a $10 daily budget on running Facebook ads. So we go in, we post an article, and then we have an attached post. And then what our task is then is to run an ad system, which is going to allow our post to be boosted on Facebook. And so what happens then is we say, spend up to $10 a day. And so we spend up to $10 a day boosting an individual post. And what people are reporting here is that you say $10 a day, it's going to burn through the $10 a day in like the first hour of the day, and then your ad won't run anywhere. But those $10 a day, you might get high click-through, but very, very low actual conversion. And that really is the ultimate problem here. So what ends up happening is Facebook's making a lot of money. They're extracting a ton of cash out of you, and then you're not really getting anything for it. You got a lot of impressions and a lot of clicks, but you didn't get a lot of sales because it really wasn't putting the ad in as good places as you wanted to. So that's kind of what they're doing. And I was wondering if Amazon was doing something similar, because I do run Amazon ads for my books. And last month I noticed that my ad spending was almost twice as high. So I was averaging for a long time about $30 a month in ads. Well, last year it was like $60. And then this month I just got my invoice, and it's $80. I'm like, what the world's going on? So I went in and logged into I wish I pulled the chart over here. I went in and logged in. And what I found is, yes, since March, so they must have turned this on in March. Since March, my actual spending nearly doubled. Now, my actual click-through and conversion rate dropped. It dropped from about a 400%, which is really bad, but I knew it was not doing super well, but I sell enough books, usually that I sell enough books to at least pay for the Amazon invoice, which is okay. But what happened is my cost doubled. Now, my conversion rate also went up, but the amount of books that I sold did not exceed. So despite my conversion rate did go up, the actual amount of royalties I made on books went down, which is very interesting statistics. Now, if they're doing something AI, maybe it's training something. So in the month of March, I think I only sold one book under that model, doubling the revenue spend that I spent on February, whereas February I did one book sale. Now, this is book sales directly attributed to the advertising. I sell a lot of books otherwise. So then I had one book sale directly attributed to the advertising with a doubling of cost. Well, this last month in April, we had, again, it went up, not double. It went up about another 30%, but we actually had 4 or 5, maybe even 6 books sold as attributed. So what looked like my cost was really high, when I isolated out the individual months, my actual conversion rate went down, which is good. I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I'm actually going to let it run like that for about 2 or 3 more months. And if I don't see the royalties responding and going up like I think it should, I'll either try and refine the system, try and turn off AI and go back to the old method, or drop ads altogether. I don't know yet, but it's very interesting. And that's how this stuff impacts, because I never said turn on AI, yet all of a sudden Amazon's making over twice the amount of money I'm now sending to Amazon. And I'm not really getting anything out of that at this point in time. So that's just kind of bad. So I'm avoiding AI, and I still have to deal with this crazy nonsense. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a shop. You can have a look over here. We have some nice Switch to Linux gear over here. We have coffee cups and t-shirts and hoodies. We even have baby onesies to annoy your mother-in-law. Yes, with aliens and tinfoil hats. We have coffee cups and mouse pads. Of course, this hat is available over there as well. Nice little trucker's cap. Yeah, we're going that way. So you can pick up a lot of different stuff and see what all's over there at shop.switchetolinux.com. With that, let's have a look at our business news next. First up in business, social media companies have too much political power. 78% of Americans say in a Pew survey, and it was very consistent. By party, 80% 84% of surveyed Republicans and 74% of surveyed Democrats both believe it. Overall, the viewpoint has become 6% more popular since the last presidential election year. And I completely agree. Now, the biggest problem, in my opinion, is the algorithms. When a social media network pushes algorithms, it forces people into these hyper-partisan viewpoints, and this is what the fundamental problem is. So ultimately, like, even if we don't ban anything, like we don't ban social media, we could at least ban algorithms, or at least make algorithms opt-in only. That's where I forget there's a new app that was out. I forget which one it was, but they actually had an option to say you can turn algorithm on, but the default is off. So it goes back to the classic Facebook. You see, Facebook used to be you were attached to all your friends and you see a chronological feed of what all your friends are doing without any pushing of one direction or the other. But then Facebook gets an algorithm and starts feeding you things that you want to see. Or maybe even worse, maybe starts feeding you things to change your viewpoint. That's frightening. But the problem is the algorithms, because it causes people to divide more readily. Whereas if you had real world friends, and back before social media took over the world, this is how the world worked. You might have connected with your friends on social media, but in the real life, you had friends that had different political views. And so then you would still see the balance. If you have a mix of friends, you turn on your feed and you'll see some Republican talking points right next to some Democratic talking points, and you'll at least see a little bit of both sides. Well, right now, it's so partisan that you start seeing only one side, and it starts pushing you further into that view. And because of that, they have the ability to push people into things and cause division where division doesn't have to be. And this is one of the reasons why I think we would all be a lot happier if we weren't on social media. This is why I do not use social media personally. Of course, I have a Twitter and other social media accounts attached to this channel, so you can see when new videos come out, or on Twitter, I'll do a few snarky comments here and there. But for the most part, I am not about social media. I think it's problematic. So I'm not all about being on social media. But that's is definitely something that is out there. Of course, some of them push you towards more conservative trends. Some of them push you more towards a liberal trend. So it's kind of hit and miss. But the problem is that we end up developing these separated echo chambers, and that in and of itself is what the biggest problematic thing is. But the social media companies can control that, and that really is where the challenge is. Well, next up is Apple is bringing sideloading to the iPad in addition to the iPhone. So as soon as the EU ruled that the iPhone had to allow sideloading in alternative app stores, they started looking at the iPad. And Apple's like, no, the iPad is different from the iPhone. And they're like, it has the same build number. Oh. So they lost that case. So the iPad now also has to allow alternative app stores and alternative like sideloading. Now, unfortunately, this does not impact anybody in the United States. So those of us in the United States are still going to be locked inside of the walled garden of Apple, whereas in the EU countries, you will be able to sideload things. So I don't know, maybe down the road, we'll get to the point where Apple is not completely involved in antitrust and allows you to use your phone for what you desire to use your phone for, even if it means you might cause some security holes. That's fine. You paid thousands of dollars for the phone. If you want to be an idiot with it, you should have the right to be an idiot. And I'm even okay if you say, okay, you got to like click a button and verify it 5 times and then wait 2 days to unlock the ability. I'm okay with that too, as long as you have a way to say, this is my $1,000 phone and I want to control it. Okay, I'm okay. As long you don't have to make it easy to do. I'm just saying you should have to make it possible to do. And so that is good news for the EU. Unfortunately, for those of us in the US based, they does say none of it directly impacts us. We are still locked inside of the walled garden over here, but whatever. And surprising no one, fast food chains find a way around the $20 minimum wage and get rid of the workers. So, of course, over in California, fast food restaurants, except for Panera Bread, because, Gavin Newsom's friend owns a lot of those, they pushed a $20 minimum wage for fast food workers, and $20 is way too much money to pay somebody to flip cheeseburgers. Okay, newsflash, I've worked in fast food before. I worked in both Burger King and in Taco Bell. And you know what? It is not $20 an hour labor. Back then, of course, I was paid a little above minimum wage. I think I was making like $5.50, $6 working those types of places. That's about what it's worth. It is low brain effort. It is not exactly stuff. But now you start coming in and say, okay, all your workers are making $20 an hour minimum wage. These guys are like, how much are those kiosks? Oh, those are cheap. Okay, we'll just hire a bunch of kiosks and get rid of the workers. So now they're just cutting off your staff and dropping your staff down to very few. And now you have these order kiosks. Of course, we talked about it, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Cali Express launched out, which is a full robotic running restaurant. And they're actually pushing out that new service that is basically like the facial recognition PayPal, right? You go in and you click the button and it's like, ooh, we see you. This is your account. And you just go ahead and push all the things on your thing, push the pay, and it automatically charges your account. I mean, this is convenient stuff. But what they found is that it's so convenient, you can go ahead and fire all the workers now because the kiosks are getting cheap. And so you can get rid of this. You can bring in a Flippy, and that's not going to be super expensive. So you can cut back on the number of people doing the fry stuff. And so, you know what? They figured a way around. It's called, oh, all you people that were working at fast food restaurants, yeah, now you just don't have a job at all. So good luck getting in line for food stamps. We'll just continue to rob rich people and give you all their money. Gavin Newsom, Robin Hood of the USA. Who saw that coming? And no, that's not even SillyVille yet. We are getting into SillyVille right now. So the first up in SillyVille, this was a fun meme that showed up on our Matrix server. You know, the newbie at AWS, guy steps on a rake, boom, $20,000 fine. The advanced knowledge user doing all sorts of stuff like skateboarding with a rake, going on down stair rails and things like that. Make one accidental mistake, boom, $50,000 fine. You know, well, that's exactly what happened over here. This unlucky developer, he threw up an SW bucket in a staging mode, and because he did the staging mode, something that is common in staging modes, in one day he racked up $1,300 in fees because, yeah, AWS has a lot of problems. So what it boils down to is he did something really stupid. He named his S3 bucket example or change me or foo or but he named it something very common, and he didn't think about it. The problem is that type of internal networking, it's kind of like if I were to come into my router here, and I've done this on the Nextcloud video recently, where you go into the router and you say, hey, anything inside this network, if you go to this domain name, it just routes to this IP address. Now, it doesn't work outside my network, but it works inside my network. Well, all these S3 buckets on Amazon within a region are all connected to the same internal DNS. So if you don't give it a really weird name, people can find it. And if you have it misconfigured to not accept stuff from only one particular account, and that's kind of the default. So you go in, and these buckets on AWS has a ton of backend permissions. They actually manage permissions very well, but the default permissions are fairly loose. And if you don't go in there and lock your S3 bucket only to work with the internal server that you're directly working with, anybody that makes a call to that server can do things with it. So he used something that was very common, and it turns out a lot of people were using a very common server, and instead of them rerouting things to their server, what they ended up with is hundreds of companies backing up critical mission company data to his server bucket and racking up a $1,300 bill in 24 hours. Whoops! So moral of the story, if you're working with AWS, know what you're doing. First thing you do with any AWS server, you go into those permissions and you lock all the permissions down, and then you specifically whitelist individual servers that you need to whitelist. Okay, that's what you're going to want to do if you're running AWS. So that's kind of what they're doing here, but... So yeah, $1,300 in 24 hours because he named something stupid. So there you have it, guys. This is great here. Imagine the old retired community that has nothing better to do but pay attention to the little nonsense of the world. Now give them smart technology like Ring doorbell cameras. So this follows a Facebook group of a bunch of snooty neighbors in like a neighborhood community or something. And now they realize that these Ring cameras are here. So now their entire community feed is constantly pictures of people on the Ring camera. You know, as if somebody walking down their hallway is an immediate violation. Come on, at least wait until the guy tries to break into your house or something. But what is going on is this guy posts a video. It's like, watch out, this person with an enormous bag stood outside my door for several minutes. One post read, watch out. Hours later, somebody interjected to say the suspicious intruder didn't have nefarious intentions. It was a delivery person that got lost. You know, you're delivering to an apartment building you've never been in before. You might have to stop and check the notes from time to time. If you're standing in front of somebody's house with a Ring camera and you got some person in there with nothing better to do but watch what's going on. It's kind of like, was it Diary of a Wimpy Kid, right? In the second one, where the grandfather is like, this is real life. And he's watching the security camera on the TV and the kids are wanting to like watch something real. He's like, this is real life. And it's some old guy walking past the retirement home camera, right? That's kind of literally what they're doing here. And then they're posting all this stuff on their online platforms. Oh dear, this is exciting. Keep a lookout for this man. Another post advised alongside a close-up of somebody's face. He was checking all the doors on my floor. Later, the person in question, an embarrassed building resident, clarified they weren't trying to rob anyone. They're trying to figure out where an annoying noise was coming from. Another crisis avoided. So, not judging anyone, only are Ring video doorbells an ethical minefield and a surveillance nightmare. They can quickly drive you mad. Video doorbell derangement syndrome, the symptoms, which include paranoia, anxiety, and compulsion to snoop on your neighbors, is an alarmingly easy condition to develop. I've had a brush with it myself. I once found myself conducting a forensic analysis of my video files to see which neighbor was putting their rubbish outside my house on bin day. So, while video doorbells are useful for avoiding Jehovah's Witnesses, I reckon they're for the birds, who, by the way, probably shouldn't be on birth control. Yeah. The rats and the birds. We're trying to put the pigeons and the rats on birth control. Like, what is going on in 2024? My God. Well, beware of the cuteness. Do not be duped. Do not be taken in. That cute little dog is really the flamethrower dog from last week's video. If you missed last week's video, yes, somebody put a flamethrower on a spot dog to run around shooting flames 30 feet by gasoline. Well, now they put a little dog in a cute little costume. Come on. If you're going to have a flamethrowing dog, at least put a dragon costume on it, right? A little dragon runs around, all of a sudden breathes fire. Dude, I'm all over that. But this guy here, they took a Boston Dynamics dog and they put a cute little dog costume on it. Do not fall for this. Don't fall for the cuteness of this trap. This thing's feigning to be a cute little dog, but it is really an evil, demonic robot dog underneath. Come on, guys. Just be aware. This is how they're getting us. This is how they're duping us. They're duping us with the dogs. They're duping us for the dogs. Now we have proof that robot dogs can play dress up too. If I'm being honest, I'm writing this so you can show you a bizarre 52-second video that stopped me in my tracks. All right. I don't know if they have music here, so let's just go ahead and preemptively mute this now. Oh, God. See, guys, this is like, don't fall for the cuteness. Don't fall for it. This dog is, yeah, they may as well put a pit bull costume on this thing. I know he looks cute to his owner, but he's going to rip you off. I mean, he's going to tear you into pieces. Oh, God. Terrifying. Yeah. Yeah. Don't be duped. Don't be duped. The robots are going to get us dressed as cute little guys. Come on. It's going to be that Jehovah's Witness that the Ring doorbells were warning us of. The Jehovah's Witness is really a replicant. Be warned. Be warned. You heard it here first. So before you go, before you you have to leave the planet, you must confess your sins, apparently. So this Catholic ministry launches Father Justice AI, but then they quickly defrock him after backlash. So you can get answers from with Friar Justin, your AI Catholic Answers advisor. So it's basically like got questions for the Catholic faith, effectively. Now, the problem happened mostly because they decked this guy out to look like a priest. And of course, they named him Father Justin. And so Catholic Answers, #1 lay Catholic apostolate of apologetics and evangelism, is excited to announce the release of our Father Justin interactive AI app. So it's basically ChatGPT with a priesty looking dude. But people are like, this is kind of problematic. Of course, what are you going to confess your sins to the robo AI? So here's, a guy is dressed as Martin Luther here, nailing another 95 theses to the door. But they had enough backlash that they come out, they apologize for this. Father Justice didn't have any bad motives behind it. The Catholic Answers was just adding an entertaining 3D model to the search engine to help people search for content on their website as a way of teaching people about the faith. So what they did is, plus played some Futurama. Did they have it? Well, there you go. So here's what they ended up changing him as. They changed him into like this business dress guy instead. So they got rid of the priest garb and they gave him the business suit instead. So you can still interact with he's not Father Justin now. I guess he's just Justin. But they've went ahead and they've changed him up so you're now interacting with a businessman, not a priest, basically. And so there you have it. And then, of course, the Bible has answer help Baptist Bob will help you find him. So there's all sorts of fun stuff. So just be aware, the AI is coming. Of course, I did write an article. If you're interested, I did write an article on AI being used in churches on the stream. If you have a look over at stream.org, it's a magazine that covers a lot of topics in the Christian and the conservative arenas. I did write a couple articles over there. You can go in there, search me up under Murawski, M-U-R-O-S-K-Y. You'll find some articles. One of those is on AI and robotics used in the church. So you can go ahead and have a look over there. And with that, if you want to help support the channel, we do have a Subscribestar page over at subscribestar.com/switchedtolinux. You can jump on over there and help support the channel. Of course, we are also over on Locals at switchedtolinux.locals.com. You can jump in over there and you can actually read our short stories. You can participate in some discussions over there. With that, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you all next time.